I remember when I was a young reporter at the BBC and I was trying to learn about journalism and storytelling. And a lovely editor took me to one side and said, there are two rules of broadcast journalism. Rule number one, decide what to leave out. Rule number two, decide what else to leave out. Try to get to a point where it's as simple and clear as possible. And that's why focus is so important. And it's a lesson I've tried to take with me into my work as a communications advisor with CEOs, ministers, and leaders around the world. And I find that when it comes to strategic leadership communication, it's actually the simple questions that are often the most effective. Where are you going? Why are you going there? How are you going to get there? And what's stopping you get there? And all the things that people advise you on in terms of effective communication, yet they're all important. Telling stories, for instance, absolutely vital for human-to-human communication. Giving human examples as well that bring things to life and allow people to connect with what you're saying. Having presence, thinking about your body language, your voice, how you stand on stage, how you move your hands, how you make eye contact with the audience, smiling and all the rest of it. All of that is important, as well as the language you use, metaphors, visual language, engaging storytelling that brings a scene to life. But perhaps there's a more fundamental problem. I ask CEOs and other leaders what their targets are, what their goals are, and they often give me quite a long list of ambitions and objectives. They may say they want to double sales, they may say they want to increase returns by a set percentage, they may come with a KPI for performance, they may talk about some more abstract goal about reputation or sustainability, but this is causing them and their audiences a problem. They're like a mountaineer saying, I want to scale 20 different peaks. The important thing is to work out which mountain or mountains you want to climb and how you're going to do it. So, what's the advice you give to leaders who want to communicate effectively with their audiences and make an impact as leaders who are remembered and trusted? I think focus is vital. So focus on where. Where do you want to go? Now in life and in business and in politics, there are many forks in the road. Moments of decision where we have to say, are we going to go this way or are we going to go another way? Now, many leaders would like to keep their options open and they'd like to say, we'd like to go there, 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 and there, but you have to decide. And closing down one route is always painful. So my advice to leaders is you have to decide. You have to make the choices about where you're going to go and the destination being visualized very clearly indeed. I remember I was working with one telecom CEO whose advisors came to him and said, look, we've got 20 different KPIs and these are the key metrics we're going to be looking at. And this CEO just said, wait a second. Don't give me 20 KPIs. Give me one KPI. Just give me one. And the KPI that he chose was to make the most reliable broadband network in the country. And from that one KPI, all of those other KPIs fell into place. So if you've got the clarity about the real destination that you want to aim for, then leadership communication becomes so much easier. But as well as the destination, you've also got to focus on the why. Why do you want to get there? This is about purpose and it's about human motivation. You've got to be able to communicate to your audience why this journey matters. Why should they get out of bed in the morning? Why should they come with you on this journey? Why does it matter? And once we connect to the emotional reasons as well as the rational argument for getting there, then communication goes to another level. And it's really interesting that in storytelling, the why is also critical. When we watch a movie, we read a book or a TV show, we're looking at the characters and we're trying to understand what do these characters want and why do they want it. Once we understand that, then the drama makes sense and draws us in. And so it is with business storytelling too. And that's why the why and the purpose is so important. But as well as the destination and why you're going there, you've also got to communicate how you're going to get there. And if you don't, a credibility gap can emerge pretty quickly. Audiences can understand, yeah, there's the ambitions, that's where they want to go, that's why it matters, great, great, great. But how? You need a plan. And credibility comes from confidence in the plan. You don't have to communicate every aspect of the how at all times, just as when you're getting on an airplane, you don't have to know how every part of the plane works, but you want to know that somebody knows. And I think this is the reassurance you need from a leader, that they have a plan. They don't share all the details all the time, but you know and you trust that they've thought through in some detail every stage of the journey and how that maps out. And if you don't do that, you're left with often, flowery words but no substance, or empty rhetoric, or greenwashing, or a big gap between what you say and how you're actually going to do it. And linked to that, I would advise leaders as well to focus on problems. Now, there's a saying in business, bring me solutions, don't bring me problems. Yes, that's right. We all like people who are on the positive side, solving things, showing the way that things can be done. But don't bury problems. Don't ignore problems. I think this is the essence of strategy. Real strategy is deciding how you're going to overcome the biggest problem. Imagine you're climbing that mountain and there's a big ice field between you and the summit. That's your problem, getting over the ice field. That's your challenge. There's no point aiming for the summit if you don't have a plan for how to overcome the biggest challenge. And every organization, business, government ministry, international organization, has critical issues. There might be reputational challenges, there might be disputes, there might be other things that's keeping the CEO or the leader awake at night. And in communication, if you are that leader, you need to communicate those challenges with a degree of honesty and with a clear sense of how you're going to overcome them. Next, focus on uncertainty. It's a very uncertain and volatile world. There is tremendous unease about global economic and political events. People just are struggling to know what is coming next. The crystal balls aren't just cloudy, many of the crystal balls are completely broken. You pick up a self-help book and it might say, yeah, you can visualize the future, create the future you want, visualize your success and you'll get there. Yeah, up to a point. But you also need to acknowledge that we live in a very uncertain world. And this is why resilience, agility, and adaptability are so important in leadership communication too. If you're sailing into a hurricane and you know the hurricane is ahead of you, you don't carry on sailing straight into it. You find a way of going around and changing your course and adapting the plan. Next thing is to focus on yourself. Okay, you can have a great strategy. You can have a clear destination. You can understand the why of how you're doing it and exactly the plan of implementing it and address those challenges and admit the uncertainty. But someone's got to stand on that stage and communicate it. Someone's got to sit down in front of the camera, on television, on the podcasts, on the radio, and tell their audiences how it's all going to happen and why it matters to them. That's why the human being at the center of it all is so critical. And that human being could be you if you're the leader. And in this, I think it's essential not to try to be someone or something that you're not. You've got to be authentic. People can communicate very well in lots of different ways. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but you have to be you. Yes, you can be a slightly more energized version of you. Yes, you can be a bigger, bolder version of yourself, but ultimately it has to be rooted in your own personality. You can do things to change your voice. You can smile more, sure. You can change your hair. You can work on your posture. All important. But if somehow it all seems fake or robotic, it looks like you're just going through the motions, then you can lose the audience and you can lose the impact of your communication as well. So if it's hard to find easy tips and tricks to improve your leadership communication, those superficial things, then what should individual leaders do? I think there are a few very important things that I would advise to anyone in a position of leadership or responsibility. The first thing is deepen your knowledge. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to communicate this knowledge at all times. It doesn't mean you're going to try to dazzle your audience with the impressive sweep of your intellect and all the facts and figures you've memorized. It just means that you come across as a person of substance, someone who has genuine expertise in the area of business or government or life that you're talking about. So go out there, listen to experts, immerse yourself in as much relevant material as possible, find gurus and mentors who can help you to increase your knowledge and therefore the impact of your leadership communication. Second thing, be humble. Everyone makes mistakes. Leaders who are honest about their mistakes and talk sometimes about their failures, not all the time. You don't want to be standing up every week and saying, here's another failure. But sometimes talk about your mistakes and your failures. Be honest about what you know, but also be very clear with your audiences about what you don't know. I think that's very important. And humility creates a certain warmth when you're communicating, and it brings an audience towards you if you're not trying to be all things to all people and the source of all knowledge. Next, yes, collect stories. And stories are important. And I think leaders who find storytelling abilities greatly enhance their communication impact. So stories can be examples from your personal life and professional experiences that bring your messages to life, that add meaning to what you're saying. They can be examples of people who you've met, who've inspired you and others in certain ways, or they could be everyday situations that you find yourself in. Great storytellers can make a story out of buying a cup of coffee or starting their car in the morning. So look for stories, collect stories, and try to map the stories that you collect onto the most important messages that you're trying to communicate. The final thing is just think about people. Keep it human. Look through the human lens. Whatever kind of leader you are, if you have responsibility, there will be people who are affected by your decisions. Those people may be customers, they may be stakeholders, they may be citizens, families, individuals, children, parents. All of these people can be a source of credible human examples that will enhance your storytelling. People don't want to hear from a CEO or a leader who seems to just communicate in a vacuum, who doesn't seem to care about the real people who are ultimately affected by their decisions. So keep it human. Think of people. Elevate those people and those human beings in your storytelling. And by doing so, you will transmit empathy to your audience. And that's very, very important for building the bond of trust between leader and those who are watching. So those things are important: deepening knowledge, being humble, collecting stories, and thinking about people. Important for the individual and important for the organization to have those big strategic aspects of storytelling very, very clear: the where, the why, the how, the what's stopping you, and the uncertainty in the world. But above all, and the final thought in this talk, focus on simple. It's back to where we started at the beginning. Decide what to leave out, and then maybe also decide what else to leave out. Find that source of simplicity and clarity too. Because imagine a muddy river. You get rid of all the water in that muddy river apart from one single glass. If that water in the glass is still murky, you haven't got to a position of clarity. So as a communicator, yes, we're taking things away and getting down to something smaller, but we need to get to something clearer as well. And this is the art of distilling complex information into clear, simple things, human things that people can understand and they can follow. You've got to keep it simple in leadership communication if you want to succeed. It's a very complicated world, so we don't want to add to it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed listening to this talk. If you'd like to connect with me, then please do. And look me up. You can find me at mike@sargentconsulting.com. Thank you very much.